Yeah, we are doing 256 English 256 understanding drama theory. Here we are going to do C for page number 103. That is, you have been explained classical Roman drama. Okay, before going to drama, we will see, go to page number 134 and see that all these dramas are being given and explained in your book, so that you will be seeing it while you're learning them. You will go directly, see, and each of the pages they have been explained. The Renaissance drama. Okay. Further, if you go historian drama, convergence and other. Then if you go further, they have been explained you modern drama, which is an important part. Mostly it is asked in your exam during your paper, modern drama. Okay, so be sure that you are writing it properly while giving your answers. What is a modern drama? Before that, we will go directly to the influence and thinkers, what they have been influenced. This will come the last part of your answer. Then further, historical event, what is been in, then modernism. Further, you will go proper drama proper. This is been also asked for your exam. Then Eliot's and East and Lorca. V. Randall Lowe. Two dramatists that deserve our immediate attention, and Luigi. Okay. Here also, this question is mostly asked, the V. Randall Lowe and Eliot's and East and Lorca. This question is mostly asked for your exam. So do prepare for this. Just go through the page number 130. Then after that, there is a description of other poets. Further, if you will see to page number 134, you will see that in this 5.7, write a note on the thinkers who have influenced the modern literature. Just now we saw that. Make a statement on silent features of modernism. Okay, mostly modernism वर प्रश्न विचारले जातात. Comment on the characteristics of classical Greek drama. म्हणजे आपण आता जो सुरुवातीला पान नंबर 103 वर बघितला. And then explain the term Renaissance drama. हे एवढं विचारलंच जातं परीक्षेमध्ये. Okay, at least it is asked. जास्त त्याच्यामध्ये डीप अभ्यासात एवढंच आपल्याला तयारी करायची अकॉर्डिंग टू द for your exam point of view. Then write a critical note on some of the historian comedy. Then explain the term alliteration effect. What is a comedy of humor? आपण शेवटच्या वेळेस आता या लेक्चरच्या अगोदर कॉमेडी ऑफ ह्युमर वाचलेला आहे. नंतर राईट शॉर्ट नोट ऑन शेक्सपियन कॉमेडी. मेनेंडर, सेन्सिका, युरिपिड्स, डॉक्टर Pastus, Moleri, poetic drama in the 20th century, comedy and manners. Okay. So further reading for your information, they have given you some books to refer. Okay. That is more important. But mostly what they have given in your question and exercise, you will look for that. Write a short note on the thinkers influenced by. See, if you will go to page number 125, you will see that the answer is been described in this way, so that you just go through the answer and you prepare for your exam point of view. One page number 125. Okay. Yes, influence of thinkers, historical events and philosophical interpretation of the world transformed the outlook of the 20th century. This is not only influenced the dominant of art, but profoundly affected other areas of human activities. European culture and civilization underwent the taramas of change and destruction as never before. The crisis as was all rebase and shocked Europe and uprooted the set of the old fields. Some of the thinkers who influenced the modern world belong to the 19th century. Okay. म्हणजे आता काही लोकांनी आणि काही विचारवंतांनी त्यावेळेस काय निष्कर्ष काढला की इट बिलोंग टू 19th century मॉडर्न दिस थिंग त्याच्यावर हे concept आहे. Okay. And it took some time for their ideas of relocate. Some of them had a belated recognition, and it was only during and after the heyday of modernism that the full force of their ideas and formulation was full. Forces of their ideas and formulation was left. The first we need to consider was a German philosopher, Friedrich Nietzsche, 1844 to 1900, was postulated the necessity of creating a new aristocracy of strong and enlightened Superman. Though he did not have a systematic philosophy of the traditional variety, he attempted a destruction of European tradition of philosophy. He was worried by the living in culture and regretted the loss of the celebratory spirit of life. He had deep insight into the existential situation of man and was to be a depth influence of the philosophy of the 20th century. The second major system of idea was that of Karl Marx, 1818, 1893, a German Jew and economist and a great social thinker who pleaded for a revolution. He thoroughly analyzed the fate of human activity under capitalism, painted by the fact of inequity and human exploitation. He inspired the pro-related work classic having no meanings of procedure to unite and seize power of power to change the world. His manifesto opens his with words workers of the world unite. You have nothing to lose but the cessation of slavery. The gap between those who have the power of procedure and those who actually seek to produce and not another any means, goes on winding the world according to Marx has been continued by the few who have who have and the many who have not. Marx was not an armchair philosopher but a social and political worker who supported action and revolution. His famous argument that the real question that humanity needs to confer those not happen to be the interpretationship of the world. Philosophers have been doing it down the centuries. The real problem is changing the world. This prediction about the nation brings world. His prediction about the nation war revolution would take place might have gone wrong, but his plea for change remains valid. Even now, his belief is directed across his analysis of world economy and his interpretation of the role of the history in human life and a lasting influence of 20th century mind. Okay, so this is a vast prediction. These are the prediction of the thinkers. They have influenced. So the third important thinker who contributed to change की एक त्यांचे विचार होते ते आपल्याला फक्त व्यवस्थित वाचून what they have told this can generally it's a very general concept you can just go through आणि तुम्हाला ते वाचून झाल्यावर लगेच लक्षात येईल की हे इंटरप्रेट कसे केलेलं आहे how this thinkers has influenced okay the third important thinker who contributes to change our view म्हणजे थोडक्यात की त्यांचा व्यू कसा आहे of the world was चार्ल्स डार्विन की त्यांनी त्यावेळेस ते एक प्रेडिक्ट केलेले की चार्ल्स डार्विन इन 1892 who was a scientist on the basis of their research and collection of irrefutable evidence as a naturalist. He possessed his theory of evolution by natural selection. He proposed that he proposed that from simple living beings, simple in terms of their bodily organization, more complex living beings involved, depending on the abilities of organisms to adapt themselves to the changing conditions in the nature. They thrive that with plants and animals which are fit to live, that is just to natural condition alone survive. The principle was called survival of the fitness. The implication of his proposition supported by scientific method were shocking to the structure of beliefs held for ages. Darwin would say, for example, that man evolved from lower animals and it required millions of years for man to emerge on earth. Okay, the statement was directly goes against the book. Okay, of Genesis in the Holy Bible. The whole question of the religious belief that changed Darwin was certainly criticized for these theories, but in the view of scientific methodology, his ideas could be disapproved only by an alternative method of collective evidence. His idea on evolution has tremendous impact and were applied to other dominance of knowledge. One reason why many describe Marx as a Darwin of the social science. Okay. Marx and Darwin theory. Karl Marx was also there and Darwin theory was also there. But both the reasons were described. की नेमकं बरोबर कोणाचं आहे. His ideas for evolution had tremendous impact and were applied to the other domains of knowledge. Okay. So one reason why many describe Karl Marx as the Darwin theory of the social science. The fourth thinker was the Austrian who founded the therapy called psychoanalysis and is exercised a far-reaching influence on our uh, Sigmund Freud, 1856 to 1939, was a doctor by a profession and was puzzled by elements of his patient who suffered from, but now external reason would be restored for their problem. The symptoms were there, but tradition methods of diagnosis did not help analysis the cause. This observation led Freud to examine the structure of the human and mind, and he proposed a theory. The visible impact on the human body may be related to the invisible working of the human mind. Thus, what we do not do many depends on motives that are mostly hidden. The obvious may be destructive. He analyzed dreams, sexuality, and patterns of human behavior. What we call as a consciousness is a negligible part of the mind. Okay, uh, in it is the unconscious that dominant, and we know very little about it. Like an iceberg, the unconscious lies hidden under the surface. Okay, he proposed a three-tier structure for the human mind: ID, or the unconscious; ego, or the conscious; and superego and superconsciousness. The last two are the smallest part of the mind. Freud himself once stated that artists and writers of the past had discovered the conscious. He had invented a scientific method to test its working. The implication of the psychological theories have obvious and highly significant. Artists began to investigate the renewed zeal, the throw hidden structure. Zeal of the Hithro means man, hidden structure of human motivation. Their sexual derives and realized that the surface of the human behavior were dominated by the deeply set hidden causes beyond unconscious control. We can see that the work of these thinkers had a significant basis. The methodology was accessible to anyone who desired to pursue the decline and against knowledge. Knowledge was not mediated by allegiances. Another thinker who radically transformed our concept about the universe was a Austrian physicist. He was a Jew and was born in Germany. Albert Einstein, 1879 to 1955, enunciated a special and a general theory of relativity. Our idea about space and time were till then governed by what is called Newton's physics. Einstein's theory changed the entire conception. He proposed that time was in fact the fourth dimension. Mostly we were aware of chronometrically clock time, notion of time, or at best the time was as understood in terms of the cycle of seasons. The linear of the psychological Einstein's propositions were wholly different. The entire project of spaces travel, which has become so common today, would not have possible without which findings that were supported by advanced mathematics. The scholar who revolutionized our thinking about language and initiated a fundamental re-examination of formulation in the social science was a Swiss, Fernandez de Saussure, 1857, 1819, 1913, the father of the modern linguistics. Okay, he was called as a father of linguistics. Linguistics is also a study of literature, science of language. They have given you in the bracket. He was the first to assert and undertake a scientific study of language and propose a model for such a study. Subsequent to his theory of language, philosophers, psychological, social scientists have founded his model highly useful for the study of their disciplines and brought about fundamental changes in the cultural studies. His definition of language as a systems of local definition of language, vocal symbols, and has concept that words mean that they mean not because of any given of inherent relationship between sound and meaning, but because of convention. म्हणजे काही ना जे दिलेलं आहे. What was the actual thing, the vocal symbols, and the concept that the words mean that they mean. Actually, you can see for this the ब्रेल लिपी म्हणतो आपण, नाही का? ब्रेल लिपी तुम्ही ऐकून असाल तर दॅट्स अ पार्ट वेअर वी हॅव टू बी सी फॉर दॅट ब्रेल लिपी. म्हणजे शब्द सुचवले जातात, फक्त आपण ते बोल कसे बोलायचे की आवाजावर, because of a convention provided revolutionary. Meanings of the words are governed by the acceptance of the community of the speaker. म्हणजे ते बोल असे बोट असतात, ते शब्द आपण नुसते त्या बोटांवर ठेवले की ते आपल्याला जाणवले की त्याच्यातनं ते उच्चार स्पष्ट होण्याकरता आपण ते फक्त बोलले जातात. दॅट्स कॉल्ड अ ब्रेल लिपी. ओके, familiar for of position, but when we begin to think about it turns out to be the most mysterious in the later half of the 20th century. Sassuri's thought contributed to a reorganization of our thinking. Okay, so for this part, we have explained you, right, the note on thinkers who influence modern literature. Okay, so you can write much of the part what we have point wise up to the page number 126. Read again and again for your examination. Now write a statement on the salient features of modernism. Okay, so further we will go for 5.5 for modernism. Before we discuss modern drama, a brief note is on the distinguished feature of the modernism would be useful. Historically, it begins after the first decade of 20th century. See the century. This is important. आत्ताचा जो पिरियड आहे बिफोर द डिस्कशन of modern drama, a brief note on the distinguished features of modernism would be useful. Historically, it begins after the first decade of the 20th century, म्हणजे 100 वर्ष अगोदर, and attains its peak around 1922. See the difference. The year in which many important literary works were published, like James Jacko 1882 to 1841, Ulysses, T.S. Eliot. This is a poetry, famous poetry uh, written by T.S. Eliot. The Waste of Land, the Virginine Wolf, Jacob's Room. Around the same time, many significant works were published on the content. Even if we just note that writers and the titles, we can easily gather information about the literary activity. A few examples listed below are enough to support the view. Okay, so you can jot down while writing your paper these eras of the, and make it thorough, so that it is very easy to describe it. If you are asked to write the uh, modernism, what is the question? You will see, go back for the question. Make a statement. Okay, म्हणजे हे एक शॉर्ट स्टेटमेंट सारखं आपल्याला उत्तरामध्ये जसं आपण उत्तर लिहितो तसं हे स्टेटमेंट ऑन द सॅलियंट फीचर्स, हे जे पॉइंट आहेत सॅलियंट फीचर्स मध्ये सुद्धा इंग्लिश मध्ये सुद्धा म्हणजे येतं, सायन्स मध्येच येतं असं नाही. सॅलियंट फीचर्स कम इन English also. Okay, so the trial of Castle is 1925 to 1926 respectively by Franz Kafka, 1883, 1923, Siddhartha 1922, and Stephen Wolf, 1827 by Hermes Hesse, 1877, 1962, the magnum opus of the German novelist Thomas Mann, 1875, 1855, titled The Magic Mountain, the major poetic work of Rainier Maria Rilke, 1857 to 1826, sonnet to Borges and Dionon Eregis, both in the years 1923, a passage of India. You have to write down in your paper, exam point of view. While writing the answers, you have to simply see the who has written what. Okay, a passage to India in 1942, written by E.M. Foster, 1879 to 1971, Woman in Love, 1922, and Arrows Road in 1922, and by D.H. Lawrence, a famous writer, 1885 to 19, all are famous actually, 1930, and William Faulkner, 1897 and 1962, The Sound and the Fury, 1929, are some of the works who know that belongs to the period we call a high modernism. Okay, this is called a modernism period. You have to include it, this all part in your exam point of view. It's an important part. These articulate some of these peculiar of modernism, and also successful involve new techniques. Okay, म्हणजे हा जो पिरियड चालू झालेला आहे त्याच्यानंतर 1929 नंतर is so far as we regard modernism as a general movement in the domain of art, it happens to be a hold all term that includes many terms, be a hold all terms that includes many trends. We are not concerned with all of them. A few we will consider a unit 6 to form an idea of the popularity. The currents and course currents note the list. Imperialism, Impressionism, Post-Impressionism, Expressionism, Cubism, Futurism, Symbolism, Victorism, Imagism, Dadaism, Surrealism. This could be extended. Okay, the sheer diversity speaks for itself and shows how different it is to discover a unified set of idea that informs modernism. Okay, की actual ideas modernism मध्ये कोणते कोणते concepts येतात to form an idea. Okay, so further we are going to see the characteristics. Modernism is characterized by a spirit of experimentation and decided break with the past. Okay, now there is again a break of a past in all the domains uh, of the art. These two elements predominate. Philosophers, thinkers, scholars, and critics have attempted to describe modernism in several ways. Originally, modernism means a movement of tendency towards rationalism in the most church and subsequently in other churches. The German philosopher Martin Heidegger Heidegger, 1889 to 1976, defended the problem of the madly of malady of, actually it's a malady, but nowadays it's called as a melody. Okay, see to it, of a modern man in two very tuning phrases. One, the indisigent of the self, and the second, the spiritual homeless of man. The notion of the self change, the belief that man reasons was a key to an understanding of the universe, was also challenged. The anti-rationalism of Nietzsche, Marx's attack on capitalism, and his appeal for the emancipation of mankind, the writing of the Fyodor Dostoevsky, 1821 to 1881, influenced the modern thinking and revolutionized the way man interpreted this world. So for in this line, we will see that who interpreted after all the influence, आपण जसं पाहिलं, influence and thinking. So आपल्याला या लाईन मधनं आपल्याला लक्षात येतं की फायडर Dostoevsky, 1821, influenced modern thinking and revolutionized the way man interpreting this world. Okay, so Nietzsche's famous sentence, God is dead. Okay, आता हा मनुष्य म्हणतो की देव नाहीच आहे, देव मेलेला आहे. आता त्यांनी हाऊ ही हॅज डिस्क्राइब इन हिज कॅरेक्टर्स आहे, रिप्रेझेंट अ रेशियल रॅडिकल, की तो म्हणतो की देव या पिरियड मध्ये नाहीच आहे माझ्या माझ्या कालावधीमध्ये. So it's such type of description represents a radical break with all theocentric God at the center. असला तर मध्ये नाहीतर नाही. सेट ऑफ द बिलीफ्स म्हणजे ज्याच्या त्याच्या मानण्यावर आहे, दॅट हॅड डॉमिनेटेड द पास्ट, की ते पूर्वी जे मानत होते ते लोकांनी नाही ऍक्सेप्ट केलं, मग पुढची लोक का बिलीफ ठेवणार ना, की त्या याचा सांगण्याचा तात्पर्य आहे. रिमेंबर विथ दिस द ऑब्झर्वेशन ऑफ द दोस्टोकेव्ही, इफ गॉड डज नो एक्झिस्टन्स, म्हणजे गॉड मुळात देवाचे अस्तित्वच नाही, देन एव्हरीथिंग इज परमिसिबल इन दिस वर्ल्ड. म्हणजे की की ही करण्याची जी मानवाची जी हे आहे ती शक्य आहे किंवा नाही, थोडक्यात परमिसिबल. And we have an idea of the psychological and spiritual darkness that 20th century mind face. Yet another statement of Dostoevsky anticipated the spiritual crisis suffered by the modern mind. Okay, life, he says that life is greater than the all philosophy of life. Man attempts to build a pattern, a structure of ideas, or a system of understand the world he lives in. These structure are the products of his reason and logic and also get the better of him. Dostoevsky seems to attack the process itself. He seems to say that philosophy is no substitute to the riches of life, reason and logic. He seems त्यांचं म्हणणं आहे की philosophy is no substitute to the richness of life. म्हणजे philosophy पाहिजे, but there is no substitute for the, if you are rich, with your rich and you have abundant of म्हणजे भरपूर असं कमवलेलं आहे in your life. Reason and logic may help, but life more, see the life, how it is, he has explained. More often that not escape a clear formulation of philosophy. For for years, the European mind had encroached encroached its faith in human reason. Romanticism staged a formidable rebellion and asserted the power of the darker unknown and the intuitive aside of the mind. But modernism had no faith in human self. Okay, it was D.H. Lawrence who said that in 1950 the old world ended. The whole concept of the stable ego was given. Man had to face the realities of disintegration, breaking into small parts, alienation, the feeling of being cut off from others, and spiritual homeless. We must note that these are some of the bases and much discussed theme in modern literature. The most important result of the climate of idea and historical event was the change in the very concept of literature and principle of its organization. The traditional concept of plot and characters were founded inadequate. In the absence of the stable ego or the self, character was convinced in the past as having psychological consistency, no longer and any value description, or more accurately the narration could no longer be coherent. Therefore, broken images narration without continuity and especially the theoretical formulation of uh, continuity and every shifting identities of fictional characters became the features of literary work. Okay, so in some we can say that modernism replaced reasons by intuition, history by myths. म्हणजे मांडलं तर देव आहे, myths and mythology, बरोबर की नाही. The self was either म्हणजे स्वतःच अस्तित्व, neither there are no nor there is, it's radically transform our concept to satya, reality, satyasati. It also strongly challenged the very possibility of communication in terms of language. Now the part of communication comes in the terms of language is what that communication हे पाहिजेच. Unless and until you don't have a communication, you won't have a म्हणजे आत्ताच्या चालू जो काळ आहे त्याला कम्युनिकेशन कॉन्सेप्ट हा पाहिजेच की जो माणसामध्ये म्हणजे it's very communication in terms of language. It's a possibility. They have just given a possibility, very possibility. That is, it should be a positively act. The efficacy of language was also seriously questioned. Baga. The question was also very serious. Okay. म्हणजे आज सुद्धा आपण बघतो की काही झालं तरी आपण कम्युनिकेट हे करणं गरजेचंच आहे. Unless and until you don't have communicate, you will not actually get the idea of what we are doing. Okay. म्हणजे तुम्ही तिथं जाऊन स्वतः एखादी गोष्ट तुम्हाला हे घ्यायची असेल तर तुम्हाला तिथं जाऊन एक्सेप्ट करून घ्यायलाच पाहिजे. ओके. It may be a smaller or it may be a bigger. तर communication in terms of language, the efficiency of language was also very seriously questioned. Okay. For the further part, we will prepare for the comment on the characteristics of classical Greek drama. Okay. Which is also important. What is a Greek drama? Okay, for the Greek drama, see the drama proper. Okay, it's a very this thing. See, while thinking, literature is particularly an art in general show. Literature is particularly an art in general show changes that were uh, decided. The spirit is now here as powerful expressed as the painting of the Salvador Dali, who was closely associated with the surrealism and was also responsible for stages design of the plays of the Rico Garisi Lorca, 1898, 1956, the extraordinary Spanish dramatist and poet. The uh, second painter who revolutionized our very conception of painting was Lavoro Pasico. We mentioned these dental to draw attention to do more features of modernism, namely its cosmopolitan related to the people all over the world. The metropolitan related to FC or capital basis. Therefore, we see that dramatists from several European countries were recognized and appreciated, and these literary interrelationships were influenced as never before. France was the center of these rapid and innovative changes in art and literature. Very often, these advanced experiments and the daring to invent is named as avant-garde art. The terms is borrowed from the army. The vanguard of the leading part of the advancing army. The avant-garde artists, therefore, the leaders much more advanced in this technique and then set themes for uh, ahead of their techniques and times as it were. Critics very often like to make a distinction between avant-garde and modern literature, but we need not concern uh, at this stage. We simply know these two terms and remember the avant-garde artists conducted blood experiment and puzzle readers and audiences. The dramatics works of Samuel Beckett, of those of Antonin Artaud, and especially the theoretically formulation of Artaud could be cited as significant example. In relationship to modern drama, we must remember three important developments. The first is of a general nature and could be understood as a artistic reaction to the whole concept of naturalism. The dramatist as well as the men of the state and become impatient with the notion of the missing fourth wall and the neatly constructed, somewhat artificial prose dialogue. The theater probably had become too verbal. Space, time, and words they thought could be more creatively used to produce effective and capture what was essentially dramatic. One reason why dramatists was well as men committed to performance were committed to experiment was perhaps the rise of the film medium. Secondly, some sort of the film medium. Secondly, some sort of justification of the experiments was felt necessary. Therefore, new theories and concepts were proposed. We see that in the development of modern drama, there is a corresponding search for theories and concepts as a result. Designers, musicians, costume designers, and directors become active and contributed substantially to accept of performance. A large number of critics believe that modern drama happens to director territories rather than the dramatist as it used to be in the past. Thirdly, these factors as it used to be in the past. Thirdly, these factors naturally affected the writings of the drama of the script. From the old five-act structure, dramatic texts were gradually reduced to three-act structure, and in many of the modern texts were have one act structure that slightly longish. The avant-garde texts do not have any pretension to dialogue as we conventionally represent to dialogues as we conventionally understand it. Instead, we have grunt, exclamation, and short and long pauses that are very articulate from the point of view of the thread. The non-verbal in the theater begins to predominate and the pendulum swings in the direction of the performs in the theater. Drama as a extent of or a book dwellings into a mere jumping aboard. One extreme yet theoretically conjointly arrayed development could be mentioned Jersey concept Brostovsky concept of a poor theater. It's in terms of text and performance, one could cite Krappa's last step or that times by Samuel Beckett. In this book, New Trends in 20th Century Drama, Frederick Lumile has stated that theories of drama have taken three directions in modern times. The first, an effort has been made to escape the frontiers of drama. Frontiers is one of the book written as a poetry, frontiers, okay, of drama. आणि ती ड्रामामध्ये पण they have been included. Though mysticism and spectacle. Secondly, the theories of epic theater, and the third direction they also called theory of cruelty, originally received by Arnold Lumile. Observation and classification represents a good starting point, though many who do not accept it totally and consider it inadequate and in need of further expansion. In what follows, we would discuss the work and contribution of some of the dramatists who are historically important and have had a lasting influence on text and have radically changed the styles of performance. Here we do not propose to note all the European dramatists because in the next unit 6, we will consider their work in the relation to the dramatic trends. Okay. So after that, Randolio and Eliot and East and Loretta. This comes again in the Greek drama. Two dramatists that deserve our immediate attention are Luigi Pirandello, 1867 to 1936, and Italian, and T.S. Eliot, 1888, 1965, an American by birth who became a British citizen in 1927. 65 चा एरा म्हटलं की जवळजवळ इट इज मोर seen that Eliot, see the period 1888 to 1986, an American by birth who become a British citizen in 1927. Okay, if you see the dramatic achievement are different, perhaps Pirandello and a dramatic and philosophic perspective would be considered more substantial of the two. But Eliot dramatic works are associated with the revivals of poetic drama in 20th century, and more importantly, the ideas he propounded to justify it. Okay. Luigi Pirandello not only produced great text but made the nature of drama itself, the subject of his play. Okay, म्हणजे ड्रामा itself त्याचा त्यांनी काय केला, प्ले केला. This work therefore question what does it point to? It's there no truth at all in what we so devotedly witness on the stage. The play projects six suffering characters and their relationships, and they urge upon an other or a director to gather them into the confines of the text or a performance. Randello imaginatively analyzes the boundaries between life and art, reality and illusion, and in a play. Okay, we will stop here for today and end the lecture up till page number 130, where ended part of English 1 to 56. Okay, thank you.